information on the right to freedom of expression for government workers. The constitutional right to freedom of speech and expression of the citizens under Section 4 of the 1987 Constitution applies to all, irrespective of the nature of their employment. However, it must be noted that government employees, upon entering the public service, do not leave their constitutional or basic human rights. And just like those employed in private companies, they should be able to freely speak their mind in any platform they choose, though this right is not absolute and is subject to limitations. In the case of Davao Water District versus Aranjuez et al., the Supreme Court said it is correct to conclude that those who enter government service are subjected to a different degree of limitation on their freedom to speak their mind. However, it is not tantamount to the relinquishment of their constitutional right of expression otherwise enjoyed by citizens just by reason of their employment, and arguably, a citizen who accepts public employment must accept certain limitations on his or her freedom. But there are some rights and freedoms so fundamental to liberty that they cannot be bargained away in a contract for public employment. It is the court's responsibility to ensure that citizens are not deprived of these fundamental rights by virtue of working for the government. Freedom of expression is guaranteed in its fullest outside government, but perhaps more regulated when one assumes the role of a public officer. The right to speech is inherent. However, the act of joining a government office should be construed as an understanding that the individual's exercise of this basic right is subsumed by the necessity of providing public services to the greater majority. Civil Service Commission Resolution number 021316 and Republic Act number 6713 are laws that governs the rights and actions of a government employee. Under the Civil Service Commission Section 5, as used in these omnibus rules, the phrase prohibited concerted activity or mass action shall be understood to refer to any collective activity undertaken by government employees, by themselves or through their employees' organizations, with intent of effecting work stoppage or service disruption in order to realize their demands of forced concession, economic or otherwise, from their respective agencies or the government. This serves to regulate the political rights of those in the government service. The concerted activity or mass action prescribed must be coupled with the intent of effecting work stoppage or service disruption in order to realize their demands of forced concession. It is there to temper and focus the application of such prohibition. Not all collective activity or mass undertaking of government employees is prohibited. Otherwise, we would be totally depriving those in the government service of their constitutional right to freedom of expression. Under RA 6713 or the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, it is an act establishing a code of conduct and ethical standards for public employees and officials to uphold the time-honored principle of public office being a public trust, granting incentives and rewards for exemplary service, and rewards and enumerating prohibited acts and transactions and providing penalties for violations thereof and for other purposes. Lastly, any public servant must observe in his or her social media posts to be well-mannered. It must be true and correct, must use a respectful language, and most importantly, in a manner not contrary to law, good morals, good customs, public policy, public order, public safety, and public interest. Remember, the constitutional right to freedom of expression belongs to all, but its exercise may be reasonably regulated, and those who chose public service must embrace the public's interest with a priority higher than their own. It mandates them to commit themselves to the democratic way of life and values, and maintain the principle of public accountability, and to at all times uphold the Constitution and put loyalty to country above loyalty to persons or party. That's all. Thank you and have a wonderful day.